Breaking right now on Morning News Now, tragedy in Colombia. Rescue crews searching for survivors after a powerful and deadly earthquake. The 7.4 magnitude quake killing more than 100 people, with the death toll still expected to rise. We will bring you the latest from the country's capital. Developing this morning, secret switch, a bombshell report by the Washington Post revealing an elaborate mission to get President Trump out of Turkey last month after a threat from Iran. Also, the president signing off on controversial changes to child vaccine recommendations, acknowledging there's no credible scientific evidence that vaccines lead to autism.
Well, we do not know exactly what the cause is with respect to autism. It is essential to our research efforts that we have the very best vaccine recommendations in the entire world.
We'll break down the changes and what doctors want you to know to keep your kids healthy. Plus, hot and stormy, tens of millions of people bracing for another round of severe weather from the Midwest to the Southeast. Angie is tracking the conditions, the warnings, and what to expect where you live. And in his bag, you heard that right, a new trend taking over the fashion world as more men empty their pockets for luxury purses. We're going to unpack the trend. Even I can't resist how it could signal a bigger shift in old-fashioned gender norms. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We are going to begin with that breaking news out of Colombia, which is dealing with the aftermath of its strongest earthquake this century. Search and rescue efforts continued overnight and into the morning. The nation still reeling from Monday's 7.4 magnitude quake, which struck the country's coffee growing region. More than 160 people have been killed so far. That number is expected to rise. Dozens of buildings were reduced to rubble. One of the towers in this iconic cathedral in the city of Manizales collapsed during the quake. NBC6 Miami reporter Valerie Ryan joins us now from the Colombian capital, Bogota, where she was vacationing when the earthquake struck. Valerie, just help us understand the sheer scale and scope of this disaster and what the situation is like on the ground right now.
Well, Joe, in Bogota here, we're about 250 miles west of the epicenter in San Jose del Palmar, which is in the department of Chocó. So, even here on the ground, 250 miles away, it was so strong. People, local community members were saying that this is the strongest earthquake they've ever felt. So the impact it was very scary to feel it here. We can't even imagine what's going on for those communities in Cali and Pereira. Here on the ground, people in Bogota haven't been impacted as much. There's been no structural damage that's been reported from officials. So we're very grateful for that. But what we are seeing was the lack of communication for the past 24 hours. People here have not been able to get in communication with loved ones. We've heard from the president that there's still missing people. You're seeing in those videos there the destruction and the damage. So right now, as rescue efforts are underway, the big thing is trying to be able to communicate with loved ones, friends, and family.
And we know we're in this window right now where so many important rescues are taking place. How are the rescue teams dealing with this situation? Do we know if they've had much success finding survivors?
So as of right now, we're in that 24-hour period. So it's, we saw this with Venezuela. It's going to take some time. This is a marathon here. The president deployed the Colombian army. We've also heard from local officials in those areas that have been hit very hard, like Cali, Pereira, Manizales. They have deployed emergency response teams. You can see here, a lot of these people in these videos are community members that are helping each other out. So that's kind of what's happening in this first 24-hour period is just people trying to help each other.
You mentioned the president there. This is actually his first major test. He's a pro-Trump president sworn in just days ago. How has he responded to this disaster so far?
He had said yesterday on X, he had tweeted like he's ready to personally oversee recovery efforts. They had set up an emergency response center in San Jose del Palmar, which is the epicenter. So I think a lot of people here in Colombia are interested to see how he's going to deal with it. Like you said, he was inaugurated on Friday. So this is really going to be, is being put to the test as to how he's going to help this country move forward after such a major disaster.
And clearly, outside help is incredibly important in a situation like this. What has been the response from the U.S. and also just the international community?
I specifically live in South Florida, and we've already seen a Global Empowerment Mission. There are a huge organization that have stepped in for Venezuela with donations, monetary donations, resources. So I think that's exactly what we're going to be seeing from across the board, especially with American Red Cross. We typically see them step in fairly quickly in situations like these.
Valerie Ryan in Bogota, we appreciate your reporting this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
This morning, a new report from the Washington Post is revealing an elaborate ploy apparently used to conceal President Trump's travel during last month's trip to the NATO summit in Turkey. He did not fly out on Air Force One as it appeared at the time, but actually a smaller Air Force jet. For its reporting, the Post cites material it reviewed, a U.S. official familiar with the operation, and another person with knowledge of the president's travel. The story centers on a clandestine mission to get the president out of Turkey amid fears of a threat from Iran. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with more on this one. Alice, this is quite the talker. First of all, just walk us through how this secret mission reportedly unfolded according to the Post's reporting.
Joe, good morning. Yeah, the Post is reporting that an Iranian assassination threat against President Trump prompted this elaborate ruse that involved the president boarding the old Air Force One, where reporters watching could see and could record him. But then before those journalists got on board, the Post reports that the president was secretly swept off the plane, loaded into an airport catering truck, and shuttled over to a smaller Air Force plane that he then flew to the UK, with Air Force One taking off as a decoy. And that's all according to a U.S. official and material reviewed by the Washington Post. Remember, this happened as he was taking off from Turkey, which is within striking range from Iran, at a moment when the U.S. had just resumed attacks against Iran while negotiations were breaking down.
How does this differ from the account the White House originally gave, and just how is the White House responding to this new reporting by the Post?
Yeah, the administration initially said that President Trump would be flying on an older version of Air Force One. The president said at the time it was for old time's sake, and so that American troops at a base in the UK would have a chance to see the new luxury version donated by Qatar, which flew separately to the UK before the president changed planes there to fly home on that new version. The changeover raised all kinds of questions about security systems on that new and already controversial Air Force One that had been upgraded from a commercial plane rather than having the kinds of military grade systems that are built into a jet that's designed from the start to serve as Air Force One. The White House has now reissued a statement from its communications director that came out at the time, noting there are many enemies of America who have their sights on President Trump, and that the White House uses every tool at their disposal to address those threats. Notably, though, the initial statement said distraction and misdirection were among those tools, and that clause was taken out of the statement when it was re-released.
Alice, there are a lot of questions here about the safety, not just of the president and that new Air Force One that you mentioned that was gifted by Qatar, but also those who were just unwittingly flying on this decoy plane, journalists and staff. I have to imagine Democratic lawmakers are maybe pushing for more answers into this situation.
Yeah, we've seen already a push among Democratic lawmakers for a formal congressional investigation into this. Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut is leading that charge. And speaking on CNN, he called the secret operation unprecedented and surreal and downright scary. And he said that there needs to be immediate accountability. Joe.
All right. Alice Barr in Washington, thank you so much. The president is pushing a major controversial shakeup when it comes to childhood vaccines. In the Oval Office, he signed an executive order cutting the number of shots routinely recommended for all kids from 18 vaccines to 11. President Trump says fewer vaccines will give parents more choice, but doctors warn it could mean more confusion and create fear that is not rooted in actual science. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake has the details.
President Trump tripling down on his efforts to overhaul America's childhood vaccine schedule after previous efforts were blocked in federal court, signing an order lowering the number of recommended vaccines for children, which would put the U.S. in line with European countries like Denmark.
Parents can still choose to give their children all of the vaccinations if they wish. It's up to the parents. We're making recommendations that are strong, but it's up to the parents if they wish.
The order recommends 11 immunizations for all children instead of the current 17 and suggests consulting with doctors about others, including RSV and hepatitis B, which is currently given to all infants at birth. The president calling to spread vaccinations across more appointments and time, including splitting up the MMR vaccine into 3 separate shots, making this baseless claim.
Together, there could be a possibility they're quite lethal, and separately, it looks like they are not at all lethal, but just very effective.
Reporters pressing him.
Is there any evidence of that?
What I've heard is that there are some people that say it is that way.
The president says he was motivated to change vaccine recommendations by recent rises in autism, though studies have shown no links between them. The order blasted by the American Academy of Pediatrics.
The executive order that was issued is going to cause more confusion and fear in families that is both unnecessary and inappropriate.
And Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, a physician, saying parents should listen to pediatricians, blasting the new recommendations as, quote, so wrong. The new recommendations to spread out vaccinations could lead to more doctor visits and more costs. The president was asked how he would counter that, but did not offer specifics.
We're going to work with the families and we're going to make sure everything works out cost-wise.
For now, these are all just recommendations. All the same vaccines remain available and covered the same way by health insurance. All sides here say the best resource is your child's pediatrician.
Garrett Hake, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel, who has a background in public health. Dr. Patel, clearly the medical community is upset over this decision. From a medical standpoint, what do you see as the biggest risk of moving these 6 vaccines out of the universal recommendation?
Yeah, Joe, I think the biggest risk is actually our threat to kind of what we call kind of public health or herd immunity for the entire population. There was a study that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association last year that showed if we had a 10% decrease in these vaccinations that we're talking about, we could see as many as 11 million cases of measles alone over the next 25 years. So I think that this is not a trivial threat. This is a real threat that if we move these out of the schedule, we could see a resurgence and increase not just of measles, but things like rubella, diphtheria, and eventually polio as that vaccine protection lags. And it will not hurt just the people who are not vaccinated. It hurts even those of us who get vaccinated because of this herd immunity that we establish by having about 92% of our population vaccinated.
And I should clarify, I should say 7 vaccines moved out, not 6. I promise I can do basic math. Now, the administration says this is about giving parents more choice. What impact, though, realistically, do you see it having? I mean, it seems like if you have to have more appointments, parents just might vaccinate less. So we have evidence to show that might be the case?
We do. We have evidence not just with breaking up vaccines, which is also technically very difficult to do, but when we do break and not just shots, but when we break apart any of our routine prevention actions, even thinking, Joe, about things like mammograms, we know that when we make those things difficult or require appointments to do any of these things, then we actually have a drop in the intended effect. We have a drop in people getting prevention. We have a drop in saving lives. So I would love to see more. I think the president is correct in having conversations with your doctor, but I think that's where this needs to start and stop. There has been no change to the science to inform this decision. There's been nothing that would change any of these 7 vaccines to move out of the schedule. And not only that, there is a question about the legality of it because this is not coming from experts or science. It's coming from an executive order, which seems to have political standing.
And the president sort of brushed off concerns about cost, but let's be clear, you deal with families. That cost is a legitimate concern for them, right?
It is. Now, anything that's preventive should not have any coverage cost associated with it. But Joe, we all know that we live in the real world, that families have a cost just to get kids to the doctor. I have to take time off of my work just to make sure my kids can get to the doctor. I have to also make sure that we can arrange for childcare if you have other children. We know that this is a driver in decreased visits, and that's not why we put the vaccines together. We put the vaccines together because that's what the science supports, and that's exactly where we should put it, with science in our children's hands.
Something else that stands out, the order calls for breaking up the MMR vaccine into sort of these 3 separate vaccines, spacing the shot out. There's no evidence of any benefit to separating them. So with measles cases spreading right now in the U.S., is this really the time to break up the MMR vaccine, more shots, more appointments? Also, is there an M vaccine, another M vaccine, and an R vaccine right now?
Right now, those vaccines do not exist. So I think that was probably the most surprising to manufacturers. You heard some of the major manufacturers actually voice this, that this would take several years to do. And not only that, Joe, lots of questions about what kind of process would have to take place from an FDA standpoint. So there are a number of things that would have to happen in order to break up these vaccines. And I think this is the part that's most confusing. If you listen to just the words yesterday, you would think that you could go to a doctor's office today and just break apart these vaccines. It's technically infeasible. In fact, just to make a comment about developed countries, our peer countries are actually moving in the direction we are. They're bundling the vaccines. They're even exploring how to add to the MMR vaccine to make one shot. Because again, getting back to what's best for patients from the safety standpoint, it's also the best for our children. We don't want 18 shots in our children, so we consolidate them to try to make them as friendly as possible. That's not a trivial thing for a patient's comfort when you're talking about a child.
Dr. Kavita Patel, good to have you with us this morning, focusing on the science after this big announcement yesterday. Appreciate it. This morning, voters are set to head to the polls in primaries that could have major implications in November's midterm elections. Today, progressive Democrats are in the spotlight. The ideological divide within the party is going to be put to the test in several states. So too will the strength of President Trump's endorsement in a special election down in South Carolina following the death of Senator Lindsey Graham. Let's bring in NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach to give us a preview of these primaries. Gary, good morning. Let's start with just the Democratic races. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Connecticut all have matchups to watch out for today. What are we looking for, and what could this tell us about what to expect in November?
Yeah, these races are going to focus on 2 major issues, ideology and age. So let's get started in Wisconsin, the Badger State, and the race for governor there, where Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong is facing off against moderate David Crowley. We've seen success for progressives around the country this year in Senate in Michigan, for the mayor in New York City. Francesca Hong is hoping for the same for her team there in Wisconsin. Over in the great state of Minnesota, it's the race for Senate that everyone's focused on, and it's the same deal over there. Moderate Democrat Congresswoman Angie Craig is facing off against progressive and current Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. They both have government experience, so it'll be an interesting test to see what voters want as it relates to ideology. Are they interested in the progressive flank, or do they want to go more moderate with their views? In Connecticut, it's a race for the ages that we're seeing there. The 47-year-old former mayor of Hartford, Luke Bronin, is facing off against the 78-year-old John Larson, who's hoping to secure his 15th term in Congress if he wins in November. Bronin is hoping some new blood will be good for the state there. Joe.
Really an important night here. I was just home in Minnesota, and I can tell you, if you turn on the TV, it's an Angie Craig ad, then a Peggy Flanagan ad, then an Angie Craig ad, then a Peggy Flanagan ad. It is all over the airwaves there. Let's go down to South Carolina. There's going to be that special Republican primary to replace the late Senator Lindsey Graham. We know President Trump has endorsed his sister Darlene. Is there a clear favorite there to take that seat in Congress, at least for now?
This became an incredibly crowded primary after the death of Lindsey Graham, and it's really a who's who of Republican politics in South Carolina. You've got Mark Sanford, Ralph Norman, Russell Fry, people with decades of government experience and legislative experience running in this seat, but it's Darlene Graham, the sister of Lindsey Graham, who has President Trump's endorsement in that race. She only said she decided to run after a conversation with President Trump, and she slept on it and prayed on it and said she wanted to run that following day. So she's only had a few weeks to really learn how government really operates and how this campaigning in diners and places across South Carolina really works. But she's hoping to fill her late brother's seat.
There's also going to be House primaries in Alabama after voting in May was postponed because of a new congressional map. Walk us through what happened there and just what we should know about those races.
Yeah, this is fascinating here because Alabama in many districts has already had primaries. Some of the voters there have already voted. But because of the Supreme Court's decision that eliminated one of the state's 2 majority black districts, if you live in the 1st, 2nd, 6th, or 7th district in Alabama, you can go to the polls today and you can vote for your representative. Now, critics are concerned about the confusion this may cause within the state because, as you mentioned, there's commercials all over the state for these candidates, but some voters aren't voting today because they already voted. Joe?
That is confusing. All right, Gary, thank you so much. This morning, 35 million Americans are once again waking up under the threat of severe weather. Many are bracing for powerful storms in the south or extreme heat along the East Coast and the Plains states. Comes after another round of severe weather hit the Midwest. Our own Angie Lastman is here with more on that. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. Multiple tornadoes left a path of destruction through Illinois and across parts of the Midwest. This is going to be something that we've seen through the day today, but take a look at what we saw yesterday.
Just fully condensed, cockpit, just fully condensed.
Severe weather slamming the nation's heartland. At least 5 reported tornadoes in Illinois and leaving a trail of destruction. In Ransom, this drone video shows a train blown off the tracks. Daylight revealing the extent of the damage. Homes unrecognizable, buildings ripped to shreds, and power lines toppled onto roads, many now unpassable. In Chicago, torrential downpours soaking the city. The heavy rain even delaying Sunday's White Sox game. Meanwhile, the unrelenting heat impacting almost 45 million people across the country, with scientists saying this July was officially the hottest month on record in the lower 48 states. The blistering temperatures continuing to fuel over 85 raging wildfires in the West.
The fire is right here.
This video shows flames dangerously close to a road in Wyoming. While in Oregon, firefighters continue battling infernos from the air, the sky turning eerily orange. And in Washington state, these dramatic photos show the scale of destruction in a neighborhood near Spokane after wildfires destroyed hundreds of homes, as Mother Nature continues causing chaos across the country.
And that active weather has already started this morning. Notice that we've got 22 million people across parts of the Ohio Valley and stretching into the Northeast that are dealing with these flood alerts. 22 million people from Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Charleston, down to Roanoke, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh included in there as well, as we gear up for another kind of active day thanks to this front that's kind of just hanging around. We will see the potential for those severe storms across parts of the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic through the day today, and then some of that heavy rain. You'll notice the pockets of it are possible, so some localized flooding going to be something that we'll likely see as well. Looking ahead to tomorrow, still some summer storms in the forecast from the plains to the East Coast. We're likely going to see the greatest chance for severe weather stretched across parts of the high plains. And here's what we see through at least the evening tonight. Pretty expansive. It does include an enhanced risk centered from Chicago down through Indianapolis and just to the west of Charleston, but much broader of a slight risk out there. So what does that mean? It means that we've got the chance for all those ingredients to come together with some of the stronger storms leaving us with wind gusts over 75 miles per hour, some damaging hail, as well as a tornado or two. Looking ahead to tomorrow, not quite as expansive, and there's that pocket across parts of the high plains, and then just a section of parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky that we could see kind of pop up some of these thunderstorms. It's the wind gusts and the hail yet again, isolated tornado risk, so that's the good news. I mentioned the heavy rain potential, and we've got those hourly rainfall rates that could reach up to 2, even 3 inches per hour, so we're concerned mainly anywhere from parts of Indiana stretching across northern Kentucky, parts of southern Ohio, and stretching into West Virginia. Charleston is included in that moderate risk. Where you see the brighter pink is where we have that better chance to see the flash flooding through the day today. And notice this at least goes through tomorrow. We could pick up 3, 4, even upwards of 6 inches in some of these locations. So this is why we have got that concern for flooding. Also, still dealing with the heat, plenty of heat alerts to go around. 53 million people, a good chunk of the country still dealing with these. Parts of the Southeast now included in those as well, as we gear up for yet another day of high 90s, if not triple digits, across these same regions. So 100 degrees in Fort Worth, feeling like 106. Atlanta, you'll feel like 96. Even Washington, D.C., it feels like temperature of 93 degrees today. Not any relief for tomorrow. It is August, but still, by even August standards, these temperatures are are above where they should be. Across the plains, it's actual temperatures 100 plus for Wichita Falls and Dodge City. Charleston heads to 94 degrees. And even as we look ahead into the weekend, not a whole lot of relief in sight. I guess if you're looking at St. Louis with a high of just 92 on Friday, that could be a little bit of an improvement, but you get right back to 97 degrees, Joe, by the time we get to Saturday. So not a lot of relief, still hanging on to summer and then some across these regions.
I'm renaming it August.
August. I like that.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, practical or problematic, why experts are sounding the alarm on facial analysis services powered by AI. Up first, though, new this morning, Syria's former President al-Assad sentenced to death. We'll be right back. We're back with a look at overseas news, an apparent strategic shift by President Trump when it comes to the war with Iran. He's now dialing back his rhetoric about attacks and turning up the economic pressure. The change comes as talks over the Strait of Hormuz continue and as Israel rejects his Gaza plan. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest on all this. Matt, President Trump says he's only semi-negotiating with Iran, and now he's floating this idea of seeking reparations from the Islamic Republic. So when it comes to economic pressure, what exactly does it seem like he's after?
Well, I mean, it's hard to know exactly whether the president is going to be following through on this. This was clearly a reaction, Joe, to what he had heard, to what we all had heard from the Iranians just a couple of hours earlier, just the day before, where they said that they wanted more maximalist demands in order to open up the Strait of Hormuz. So the president seems to be doing kind of a tit for tat here, saying that he wants reparations from the Iranians after the Iranians had said that they want reparations from the U.S. for the damages that the U.S. and Israel caused when they started attacking Iran back in late February, setting off this latest round of conflict. But the Iranians also had even bigger demands. They want to see all American troops leaving the region around Iran. They want to see the United States halt its threats against Iran, something that President Trump does on an almost weekly now basis. And they want to see basically more demands met, more of their funding that had been frozen abroad unfrozen. This was something that the Obama administration did partially and that President Trump had really criticized Obama for doing. So, you know, this is dueling demands that we're seeing. It just all points to one thing, that the negotiations to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and relieve the world of this incredibly tight choke point for energy supplies, that is reaching an impasse that isn't going to be resolved at any time.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at here is you have this list of demands for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. What all does it tell us about the distance between these two sides? How big is the gap right now?
I mean, it just shows that the gap is so wide as to be almost, unbridgeable, excuse me. The fact is that these demands on either side are so maximalist in their nature, it almost begs the question as to whether those who are making the demands actually think that they're going to be met. The Iranians may not believe that the U.S. is going to actually evacuate all of its enormous bases all around the Middle East, or that it's going to unfreeze all of its frozen funds abroad that the Trump administration had spent the last 10 years criticizing the Obama administration for doing just that. So a lot of these demands look like they're really not actionable. They look more obstructionist than they do like something that is beginning a negotiating round.
Matt, while we're discussing conflict in the region, another headline is Israel rejecting Mr. Trump's Gaza plan. What does this mean for the president's ability to shape what happens next in the Middle East?
Well, I mean, it really just goes to show that in the Gaza Strip, like in Iran, we're facing an almost unbridgeable impasse between two parties, and President Trump has been trying, at least by making major announcements and announcing successes before they happen, to try to break through this gridlock. But once again, in Gaza, like in Iran, he doesn't seem to be succeeding. He made this announcement, Joe, you'll remember last month, where he said that that Israel and Hamas had come to a deal for Hamas to disarm and then for Israel to withdraw. Well, the Israelis said that they won't be withdrawing unless Hamas disarms, and Hamas said they won't be disarming until Israel withdraws. I spoke with the Prime Minister's spokesman here in Israel just yesterday, and here's what he said about this disagreement.
Who's not holding up their plan? Every single day, Hamas is in blatant,
violation of the 20-point plan. Every single day that goes by that they haven't disarmed, they are essentially sticking their finger in the eye of the President of the United States.
So the Hamas response to that would be to say that the Israelis are the ones who are breaking the ceasefire. Regardless of who you believe here, Joe, it's clear there isn't much progress being made on the diplomatic track.
All right, Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. Matt, thank you so much. New this morning, Syria's former president has been sentenced to death for war crimes. NBC News reporter Matt Bodner joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Matt, good morning.
Joe, good morning. That Syrian court sentenced the former president Bashar al-Assad, as well as his brother and a few other officials, to death. This, of course, has been done in absentia, as Assad himself is currently living in exile in Moscow. The court found Assad guilty of killing multiple people, including children, as well as torture, arbitrary detention, and crimes against humanity. Moving along now to China, Tropical Storm Dolphin has inundated eastern China with heavy rains after making landfall on Monday. Shanghai airports have canceled hundreds of flights for the second day in a row now. Train services in and around Shanghai are also disrupted. Authorities have warned that there is a risk of severe flooding and landslides in some areas. We'll wrap up this hour in Italy. Divers have uncovered a Roman-era shipwreck that lay undiscovered for more than 2,000 years. Italy's culture minister has called it, quote, one of the most significant underwater archaeological discoveries of recent years. The ship was found 3 miles off the western coast of Sicily, about 150 feet down. The ship appears to have been carrying hundreds of clay jars, potentially from North Africa. Back to you.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Coming up, chatbot crackdown. Lawmakers in one state looking to limit the use of AI-powered therapy. Our friend Dr. George James has our weekly check-in next. This is Morning News Now. We're back with our weekly mental health check-in. This week, California lawmakers are looking to crack down on the growing use of AI therapists. Plus, researchers say fun is in short supply here in the U.S. We're going to talk about why it matters for your well-being. Licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. George James joins us with that and more. He is the author of I Give Myself Permission. Take risks, be imperfect, live boldly. Dr. James, always good to have you with us. So AI counseling we know is soaring. Thousands are looking to chatbots for mental health care. Now, California lawmakers trying to rein it all in with a bill. It would actually ban companies from advertising chatbots as therapy. Why do you think AI therapy has become so popular? And just what are some of the dangers that come with trusting a chatbot over a professional like yourself?
Good morning, Joe. You know, part of what I've seen over in the past 25 years of being a therapist is that sometimes there's a barrier to get service, right? Whether it's cost, whether it's access, whether it's insurance, there's lots of things. So with the AI chatbots, it does give people access to getting some type of support. The challenge, though, is that sometimes the information may not be what a therapist might actually say. And even there's evidence where maybe 1 in 8 of our young folks or teens are leading to these chatbots, and they could be really in some really dark places when they actually need a professional to help guide them. And it's hard to distinguish what is real from what might not be. And so, yes, it can help you with maybe tracking your mood and maybe helping you in some initial phases, but I still would want to go to a professional, a licensed professional, a therapist where you can get that help for all the needs that you might have, including some of those things where you might be in a very bad place or a dark place.
Yeah, very important to keep that in mind. Well, we're talking about AI. So we've talked about this looks maxing trend, which is all about maximizing your physical attractiveness, sometimes to an unhealthy degree. Well, AI is taking it to yet another new level with an uptick in sort of face rating, facial analysis, where you can upload selfies, try and get detailed feedback on your look. Some people are paying hundreds of dollars for these kinds of services. Dr. James, nothing wrong with wanting to improve your appearance, but how can this constant focus on our looks just impact our self-esteem and just well-being in the long term?
You know, Joe, I wish this was like an outfit maxing thing where I could like see how I can improve my outfit. Like I would go for that. Now the challenge with that, yes, it's always good to be able to think about how might I improve my look, or even think about what are the things that maybe I want to feel a little bit better about. But the challenge with this, and even our overall society, is that it constantly makes you feel like you're not enough. It constantly makes you feel like you're less than. It constantly makes you think that you need to make some type of cosmetic cosmetic improvement. And even with this app, there's a fee that you'll pay that will then suggest these things. And there's something called body dysmorphia, where lots of people struggle with how they feel, and it makes them actually feel awful. So I think this is just going to add to that. So I would really caution folks of thinking about how much you use it, but also recognize that the beauty is very diverse and it can look lots of different ways, and that you are pretty good where you are, and hopefully you can get some support around that.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely keep that in mind. And remember, all of this is deeply subjective. By the way, your outfit looks great. You are outfit maxed, I would say, Dr. James. Is that a word? I have no idea. All right, finally, as the saying goes, time flies when you're having fun. Researchers say fun is actually fizzing out here. They're calling it a fun shortage, the experts are. What's behind the fun shortage, and what steps can we take to maybe keep fun, make it a priority for our health?
You know, Joe, this one really kind of like breaks my heart, because there's so many things that we would consider fun that it has been disappearing, whether it's bowling alleys or social places where we can meet up. There's been an increase in loneliness. So lots of folks have been really experiencing a lack of fun, which then impacts your mental health, impacts your mood in so many different ways. And what we've seen, the things that might be fun have actually increased in cost. What I would encourage people is to think about, what can you do? Maybe you can play a board game with friends and family. Maybe you can create more meetups with those that you love and care about. Maybe you can get like a tennis ball or a basketball and go do something that is actually enjoyable and fun. Find ways that are affordable, that you can do, block out time in your schedule, and make fun more a priority, because it does help in all the things, especially in your mental health and your well-being.
I literally just joined a bowling league, and it is literally fun. I look forward to it every week, and it's a simple thing you can do. All right, Dr. James, good to have you with us as always. Looking sharp. Thank you. Coming up, turns out love does cost a thing, so much so that Gen Z is choosing to save money by ditching those expensive dates, and some are staying single. Our friend Brooke DePalma is here with more on the trend that some are calling solo maxing. Also, countdown to tip-off. NBA fans, basketball is almost back already. We've got your first look at the schedule with our friend NBC Sports broadcasting legend Mike Tirico. He'll join us next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. If you talk to anyone who's dating these days, you might hear some horror stories, nightmare meetings, bad behavior, dating apps that don't always deliver. Now another problem is getting in the way of finding love, the price tag. Take a look at BMO's latest Real Financial Progress Index. Shows the average date now costs nearly $189, up more than 12% from last year. That could include anything from dinner and drinks to transportation, even just getting ready. Gen Z is spending even more, about $205 a date. It all means Americans spent an average of more than $2,300 on dates over the past year. In fact, half of Gen Z says the cost of dating is getting in the way of their financial goals, which is part of a growing trend called solo maxing. We're getting in all the maxings this morning, choosing the single life and putting your time and money into yourself instead. So is romance becoming a luxury? Joining us now is Yahoo Finance senior reporter, on-air correspondent Brooke DePalma. Good to have you with us. We've been hearing about this dating recession, a drop in how many dates people are going on. So what does it actually look like, and how is money and the cost of everything factoring into that?
Yeah, so put aside confidence that you might lack because you've tried to date yet again and again. Put aside bad experiences. It really is money that's the factor that's keeping people on the sidelines when it comes to dating, to putting themselves out there. This survey found that 1 in 3 young adults are actively dating. So, of course, that means 2/3 are not. They're putting themselves first. But you have money at the core of that. Half of them said that they felt like they didn't have enough money to date, and maybe some chivalry coming into effect here, because it was about 58% of men said that they didn't have enough money, where 46% of women said the same.
It's not just the cost of dinner we're talking about here. Everything seems to be more expensive. Plus, these younger people have student loans, higher costs. It's a tougher job market for younger people. How is all of that, just the economy, shaping shaping how this younger generation approaches dating and relationships.
Yeah, you might have heard in this economy. I mean, dating in this economy is definitely tough. When you think about just the factors that are playing into Gen Z's wallets right now, you have gas hovering around $4. You have inflation in July up 3.4%. You also have a weaker than expected jobs market based upon the latest numbers that we got last week, where we saw a decline of 23,000 jobs in July. And we've talked more and more about how entry-level jobs are harder to get into. Of course, Gen Z playing a big part in that, trying to break into this workforce. So all of that combined kind of playing into it. You also have this dynamic where the average debt for Gen Z is now hovering around $34,000. Of course, that's a little bit less than millennials or Gen X. But when you're trying to just get started here, that's a significant setback for younger Americans.
A few minutes ago, we were talking about looks maxing. So now we have this idea of solo maxing. So maybe I'm going to ask you to put on your sociological cap here a little bit and help us understand this, because it's not really just money driving this. There are a lot of reasons it seems like the Gen Z is maybe dating less or not as interested in relationships at a younger age.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, personally, I kind of feel like social media has a part in this because you think about it, you look at other people who are doing independent travel, who are putting themselves first, who are maybe even buying a home. We have younger women in America who are looking to prioritize buying a home first. And so they're saying, how can I put myself first and then maybe put marriage and dating on the back burner? Of course, our parents don't like to hear that. But at the same time, this idea of really prioritizing yourself is really coming into vogue right now.
All right, Brooke DePalma, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. More men are emptying their pockets for luxury handbags. How this one accessory is challenging old-fashioned gender norms. Next on Morning News Now. Let's end this hour with an unexpected trend making a meteoric rise in the fashion world, the man bag. In the past, most men might avoid carrying purses or handbags for fear of being judged or labeled as feminine. But now a new generation of A-listers changing the narrative. This summer, a growing number of celebrities are flaunting those luxury bags like Hermes and Louis Vuitton. From the red carpet to sports arenas. As for me, I've been sporting one. Actually, I owned 3 of them for the past few years. That was me at the U.S. Open a couple of years ago. Ashley Fetters-Malloy is here with more on this. She is a reporter for the Washington Post Style section who recently did an in-depth analysis on this trend. I'm so glad we're digging into this because we're seeing it more and more. There's economists who predict the luxury bag market's going to grow more than $6 billion over the next decade. That includes men now. Why are we seeing more men carrying these handbags?
Thank you for asking. I'm so glad you asked. I think one reason we're seeing more of this is men are starting to demonstrate their knowledge of something that women have known for a long time, which is that not only are they practical, you can stash all your stuff, but a handbag, especially a designer handbag, a luxury handbag, can really communicate status and access and, it's wealth, right? It's something that, women who are in the know have seen on each other for years. And I think men are demonstrating their knowledge of this as well now. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, it's not status. It's literally emptying my pockets. But
also a life upgrade, for sure.
But maybe that's the next step for me. I mean, we know that you're speaking of that. It was the centerpiece at Paris Men's Fashion Week this year. Some industry experts say this isn't just a trend. This could actually be a whole new category in menswear. I mean, what are some of the popular styles we're seeing right now?
Well, I think for example, like Louis Vuitton's menswear creative director, Pharrell, has done incredible work getting his handbags into the hands of really famous, really well-dressed, stylish men. You see the Speedy bag, for example, is incredibly popular with NBA players. You'll see LeBron James has carried this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has quite the handbag collection, is also partial to the Speedy bag. Jalen Brunson came to Madison Square Garden during the NBA Finals carrying a Louis Vuitton pouch. You'll also see men are gravitating toward Hermes in the same way that women have gravitated toward the Hermes Birkin in recent years. You'll see Erling Haaland, made a big splash with his Hermes collection at the World Cup this year. And those are just a few of the designer styles I've seen get more popular. You also here in New York see a lot of the Uniqlo utility bag, right? That's there's lots of men switching to that too. So on all ends of the spectrum, you see men switching over.
Leading up to this, I feel like maybe you'd see a guy carrying like a gym bag. You know what I'm saying? As they're going to and from work. But like maybe they don't necessarily want the luxury bag. But is it going to become more of like a staple, do you think? What is that actually going to look like?
You know, gym bags are very much still with us. Gym
Yes.
bags, briefcases, very much still with us. But what I do anecdotally hear from men who've made that switch is that it's a life upgrade. You know, it's I think we're in a time where we do want to have our phones and our phone charger and maybe our wallet as well, right? And maybe we do want to have a granola bar and some Kleenexes, right? Like I think it's
And the hand sanitizer.
and the hand sanitizer. Exactly. We want all these things with us all the time. And you know, you see all these celebrity photos are kind of, you know, they have an impact that trickles down, right? And I think anecdotally, every man I've talked to who's made the switch, it sounds like you've made the switch as well.
Yes.
Has said it's an improvement.
What does this say about just fashion right now? We've talked about sort of old-fashioned gender norms, and those are just being shattering so often in so many different ways.
You know, I want to be careful that we don't ascribe too much of a statement to this, right? I think, you know, I don't think this means we have toppled the patriarchy. I think there's lots of evidence everywhere that it's still with us. But at the same time, I think what this does remind us is that so many of the ways that we gender clothing and the ways that we assign symbolism to inanimate objects, it's all kind of mutable, right? It's all kind of arbitrary. All these things, you know, 100 years ago, baby boys wore pink and baby girls wore blue. And it used to mean if you wore Birkenstocks that you were anti-establishment or you were countercultural, and now it just means you want comfy feet, right?
Yeah.
So all these things, in the long view of history, they can change. They're all subject to experimentation.
But it's a fantastic point that you make there, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ashley Fetters-Malloy, for coming on and talking about this morning. We appreciate it. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Breaking right now on Morning News Now, aftershock. Colombia in crisis this morning. The death toll from yesterday's massive 7.4 magnitude earthquake rising again. More than 160 people killed after the quake shook up several cities west of the capital, Bogota, Monday morning. Hospitals, schools, and other major buildings caught on camera crumbling. Now it's a race against time to find those under the rubble. We'll have the latest in just a moment. Also this morning, bait and switch, a secret and elaborate security operation raising fresh concerns over the security of President Trump abroad. Now, the Washington Post reports that the commander-in-chief actually left that NATO summit in Turkey last month in a clandestine ruse that sounds straight out of a spy thriller. Plus, a summer of recall bummers has many Americans now thinking twice before buying fruit, veggies, even some meat products. It's all serving up a sales slump at popular food chains from coast to coast. So how can you make sure your next meal is safe to eat? And do not disturb. Tired of those pesky telemarketer calls gumming up your line day after day? Well, you may want to fly yourself to France. Starting today, lawmakers, they are banning those nonstop nuisances. How is that supposed to work, and how can folks here in the States try and get similar results? We're going to drop you a line later in the hour. Let's begin this hour with the breaking news out of Colombia. Rescue teams are frantically searching for survivors one day after a powerful earthquake hit the South American country. The 7.4 magnitude quake struck western Colombia on Monday, reducing buildings to rubble. So far, more than 160 people have been killed. Countries around the world are reaching out to offer support and assistance to those in need. NBC News correspondent George Solis joins us now from Cali, which is one of the cities devastated by the quake. George, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. What you're seeing is that urgent search for survivors here in Cali. You can see some of the heavy machinery and crews that are working behind me. They have been forming human chains to remove some of this debris. And at some points, everything has to stop just to see if they actually hear any voices in the rubble. So many keeping the hope alive that they will find survivors through this rubble. So many still reeling after this earthquake.
This morning, new video showing the moment of the earthquake in Colombia, with rescuers desperately digging through mountains of rubble to find those trapped inside buildings. The deadly and powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake taking many by surprise when it struck Monday morning.
It was probably the most terrified I've ever been in my life.
In Medellin, Laura Alvarez recording this harrowing scene of her home shaking violently.
I could just see everything shaking.
Authorities say more than 130 people have died. Passengers at this airport holding pillars bracing during the moment of impact. one man screaming as the shaking intensifies. Outside this hospital in Cali, part of the building collapsing onto an ambulance as patients scramble for safety. This woman narrowly escaping falling concrete. The epicenter of the quake, San Jose de Palmar, nearly 70 miles away in Pereira. People frantically running for cover. Across the region, churches badly damaged, including this one where the cross fell from its spire. In Medellin, Sam Simpson says she ran for her life with her husband and their pets.
I am shaking so hard right now. An earthquake just hit.
Recording this video moments after they felt their high-rise start to tremble.
The building was swaying so much. It really felt like it was going to crack.
She's worried if more aftershocks are on the way.
You know, it's really hard. It's this surreal moment where I think everyone's a little bit on edge about, is this going to happen again?
Yeah, Joe, worth noting that so many people that are actually working here actually are survivors of the earthquake themselves. We spoke with one woman who survived from at the 8th floor of her apartment building. She says right now it is Colombia helping Colombia. People coming out to these communities to help spread awareness, to let people know that their loved ones are okay, doing everything that they can to try and remove some of this debris and rubble and, again, hopefully find survivors in some of these buildings. Another note, Colombia's president saying that 6 of the country's airports remain closed as a result of these earthquakes, which is certainly going to present a challenge in trying to get some of that critical aid that so many here on the ground are going to desperately need. Joe?
All right, George, thank you so much. Let's talk more about this rescue operation with Brian Stern. He is the CEO and founder of Grable Rescue. Brian recently led that organization's operations in neighboring Venezuela when it was hit by those deadly twin earthquakes back in June. Brian, good to have you with us. So what are rescue teams going to be focusing on right now as this search for survivors continues?
The big thing is the race against time. It's very hot. You know, it's hot outside. It's humid, and people buried in collapsed buildings and confined space, which is what this is. What earthquake always results in. Air quality is a thing. Access to air is a thing. So this is really a race against time to get as many people out from under the rubble as possible. When we compare and contrast this to the earthquake that just happened in Venezuela, or the series of earthquakes that happened in Venezuela, it is very different. The size and scope from a building perspective is much different. There's a lot less catastrophe here than what we saw in Venezuela. But if you're the poor person trapped in the bottom of a building somewhere, you don't really care about that. What you care about is that you're stuck buried in the rubble
and need to be rescued as quickly as possible. We are still in the first 72 hours of this disaster. Help us just understand why the work that gets done today, tomorrow, is going to be so crucial when it comes to finding survivors.
Again, it's a race against time. People can't survive in these conditions, buried under rubble, without oxygen, in the heat, without water, for an extended period of time. So it really is it's a race. It really is a race. At the same time, you can't go in there with heavy equipment. This is very, very, very labor intensive. It's brick by brick, piece by piece. It takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of hands, and a lot of human capital, a lot of resources. Oh yeah, by the way, there's always the threat of aftershocks. So when digging in these situations, and we've done many of them, it's Jenga. So it's brick by brick, piece by piece, but you have to move fast at the same time, and it's very, very, very dangerous and very hard.
Jenga on a scale that's even hard to imagine. Obviously, international help is essential, especially for a country like Colombia. What kind of support or aid do you think Colombia needs right now from the international community? What can other countries provide that would actually make a difference?
That's still developing right now. Right now, we're trying to understand what the needs are. Grable Rescue, our advanced teams are already in Colombia. They're working. We have a team actually in Medellin right now. trying to understand the size and scope and what the requirements are. Surely there's going to be a humanitarian aid piece. Surely there's a human capital piece. We need urban search and rescue teams to get on the ground right away and that kind of stuff. The best way to help Grable Rescue is to go to our website, grablerescue.org. There's a big button there that says donate. Push the button. If you're an American or you have family that's stuck there, you need to know where they're at or they're missing or whatever. There's a button there that says request help. Push the button and we'll see to it. But people need to not watch this stuff on TV. Government can do what they can do, but at the end of the day, what usually saves the day with this stuff is the nonprofit community, the Red Cross, and organizations like Grable Rescue.
Brian, we did mention your organization did help with rescue operations in Venezuela when it was hit by those 2 earthquakes in June. You mentioned some of the differences between the two countries. The buildings was one of those differences. How else do they compare?
The biggest difference is that Colombia is a very functional country. They have a very sizable army. They've got resources. The security situation is stable. Colombia as a country is a not more sovereign country, but just a more organized country than Venezuela, where in Venezuela the leader of the leader of the rescue efforts has a $25 or $50 million price tag on his head from the U.S. Department of Justice. Colombia isn't that. 2 weeks before the earthquake in Venezuela, we did a drone strike on Tren de Aragua in Venezuela. Colombia is not that. So Colombia, the people of Colombia are in a much better position from their government's perspective as to a response, emergency management, the military response, helicopters, airplanes, all the things that you need to deal with these issues. Colombia is in a much better position, if you will. A 7.1, 2, 3, or 4 earthquake anywhere, even in America, is significant. That is not insignificant, but based off the building standards of wherever it happens and based off the response capability where that happens, drives it all.
All right. Brian Stern, appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Breaking overnight, a new report is revealing details about an intricate security operation overseas last month involving President Trump. The elaborate ruse was used to conceal the president's movements on the same day he declared a ceasefire with Iran was over. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more on this secret flight. Gabe, good morning.
The details, first reported by the Washington Post, seem to be out of a spy thriller. The president boarding a decoy plane only to be whisked away to a nearby aircraft using a catering truck. It's raising new questions about the safety of the commander-in-chief as the Iran war drags on.
This morning, a reported secret mission to briefly hide President Trump. According to the Washington Post, last month, the president's team taking extraordinary measures to move him, with threats from Iran growing the day after the U.S. resumed strikes there.
They want to take out the U.S. leader, me.
On July 8th, following a NATO summit in Turkey, President Trump was seen boarding Air Force One, an airport catering truck captured on video next to the plane. According to the Post, the elevated vehicle was used to secretly shuttle the president to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, to be flown out of Turkey. Reporters and other White House staff boarded the original Air Force One, which became a decoy. The Post cites material it reviewed, a U.S. official familiar with the operation, and another person with knowledge of the president's travel. According to the Post, the maneuver meant that Trump's actual location was concealed from the American public and many senior U.S. officials for hours. Eventually, the president landed in England, where he apparently reboarded the original plane before exiting it again and getting into the newer Air Force One jet gifted by Qatar. Reporters asking why they'd been told to lower their window shades on the original flight.
Because you're probably in a dangerous flight because of this nice bags that we have to do.
The president saying it was probably due to security.
And then it has been close minded. If they did, I would have done it.
And he was asked about threats from Iran.
I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go. Right?
What was their specific
so perhaps someday you want to change professions.
When pressed about the newly reported details, the White House did not address them directly, though notably did not dispute them. Instead, adding in a written statement, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats. Democrats now raising concerns.
What's really at stake here is the safety of the president when he travels.
The Secret Service has used remarkable techniques to keep the president safe in the last few decades, taking President Bush, for example, to what was first described as an undisclosed location on 9/11 and using a decoy plane when President Clinton visited Pakistan in 2000. But this level of misdirection is highly unusual.
All right, Gabe, thank you. Taylor Fresh Foods is now issuing another product recall amid a wave of foodborne illnesses. The Salmonella and Cyclospora outbreaks have been plaguing people across the nation for much of the summer. Now the list of foods being pulled off the market as a precaution is expanding. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins us with the latest. Steve, good morning. First, bring us up to speed on just the latest products that are being pulled from shelves.
Yeah, so this is a voluntary recall involving about 20 products distributed in stores in about 26 states, right? So in a lot of cases, these are staples for the American table: pico de gallo, guacamole, different types of salsas, and they're found in these huge chains, right? So Walmart, Whole Foods, Targets, Trader Joe's. In all cases, they are products that have that best if used by date on or before August 16th. So that's what you want to look out for. If you think you have one of these products, the simple advice is to simply give it back to the store or throw it out. If you think it's tainted, wipe down any surfaces. And then if you think you're sick, of course, call your health professionals right away.
What is the wider impact of these recalls right now? How is it affecting stores? I have to imagine even some restaurants and their customers.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, well, the obvious big thing is that people are getting sick. 345 cases or so spread out over 27 states. You have 36 hospitalizations so far. Thankfully, no deaths reported. But businesses, of course, are taking a hit as well. Qdoba, Taco Bell, Chipotle, all reporting sales slumps, mostly tied to that Cyclospora outbreak. But there's also a restaurant like Sweetgreen, which has had no ties really to any of this. They're saying their sales are slumping and their shares are trading about 8% lower than they should be because people are taking this as an abundance of caution. Just anecdotally, I went to a market yesterday where they could not sell anything that had Taylor Farms on it. So they had to get rid of their entire inventory because people are so worried about this. So pain felt really everywhere at home and in the business.
Steve, walk us through just what officials are saying about how the recall is actually helping stop the spread of bacteria, because that's obviously the primary reason why they would do this. And do we have an idea how long this could go on for?
Yeah, so I spoke to an expert on this yesterday. He said that essentially a recall slowly, unfortunately, repairs the supply chain, right? So the stores, the businesses, they stop selling the product. The health department releases the notice, so people throw those products away. And companies stop sourcing them from either the farm or the region where that contamination was found. In all, it takes maybe about 4 to 8 weeks, they found in most of these foodborne illness investigations, for it to completely cycle out.
Right. Steve Patterson, thank you so much. Yep. Voters are heading to the polls today in another round of competitive primaries to set up the fall midterms. In both Wisconsin and Minnesota, Democrats will once again be choosing between progressive and moderate candidates. While in South Carolina, Republicans will pick a replacement nominee for the late Senator Lindsey Graham. And that is where we find NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles with a preview of what to expect. Ryan, good morning.
It is a crowded field in the special primary to pick a new Republican nominee to replace Lindsey Graham. And even though Graham's sister Darlene currently holds his seat and has President Trump's endorsement, many folks here on the ground believe this race is headed to a runoff. In battleground South Carolina, where the late Senator Lindsey Graham's legacy looms large, his sister Darlene, with President Trump's endorsement, is hoping to pick up where her brother left off.
I think President Trump is going to get us through this, and the price of gas will eventually come down.
Trump touting her campaign in a tele-rally Monday night.
She's the perfect person to carry on Lindsey's legacy.
But voters here nervous about her lack of experience. If a candidate does not clear the 50% threshold tonight, the top two candidates will head to a runoff later this month. In Wisconsin, progressive candidate Francesca Hong, who polls show in the lead in the race for governor, is trying to hold on despite a push from the more moderate wing of the party, worried about her socialist views. And backlash over past social media posts calling to cancel Thanksgiving and abolish ICE. Comments she's attempted to walk back.
It is the people, the voters,
that give me confidence not only to win tomorrow, but to win on November 3rd.
But without the endorsement of prominent progressive leaders like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's vulnerable in a primary defined by surprise dropouts and re-entries. One of those re-entries, David Crowley, who has the endorsement of the state's popular governor, Tony Evers.
Feels like we've captured lightning in a bottle, and so our job is just to make sure we're consolidating all those undecided voters.
Meanwhile, in the Minnesota Senate primary, Democrats will pick from progressive Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan and moderate Congresswoman Angie Craig.
I'm fighting for the policies that I think Minnesotans really care about.
I'm the experienced person in Washington who has a track record already of taking on Donald Trump.
The winner will face whoever emerges from the GOP primary. That includes former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya, a critical seat Democrats must hold if they have hope to retake the Senate this fall.
The polls here in South Carolina close at 7 o'clock tonight. If no candidate crosses that 50% threshold, there will be a runoff 2 weeks from today on August 25th.
All right, Ryan, thank you. Time now for weather this morning. Another round of severe weather. I sound like a broken record to be in store for millions of Americans. Angie Lastman joins us with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
You're telling me, Joe. I feel you there. With the heat, with the fires, with the severe storms, it has been kind of those three main topics weather-wise over the past week or so, and today is no different. We've got 23 million people across parts of the Ohio Valley stretching into the Appalachians that are already ramping things up early this morning. If you live just east of Columbus or west of Pittsburgh, you're going to likely be hearing some of those rumbles of thunder right now. Stretching down through Charleston, we've got some thunderstorms, and across portions of western Ohio and eastern Indiana, we have also got a big cluster of thunderstorms. And much of this does have some kind of heavy rain in pockets. So we've got the flood alerts up for 23 million people right now. Some flash flood warnings are in effect. And unfortunately, more of this is on the way through those same regions as we get through the day today and even into this evening. It's the heavy rain, the risk for flooding, all will be there, on top of the fact that we've got all the ingredients to ramp up some of those stronger storms as the day goes on. This is more into the afternoon and kind of evening hours that we could see this, but centered across parts of Iowa, stretching all the way to West Virginia, basically Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana included in that enhanced risk, but a larger risk really encompassing much of this area. It's the winds that we're most concerned about, so say 70, 75 miles per hour or higher, and then the hail and even an isolated tornado possible. Tomorrow, not quite as large of a risk, but we'll see still a potential for some of these stronger storms to pop up across parts of the plains and parts of Illinois, as well as Indiana and Kentucky. The hail, the damaging winds, main risk, but again, just like today, isolated tornado risk, so that at least is good news there. The flooding, though, big concern. We'll see those really impressive rainfall rates and upwards of maybe 5 inches here as we get through the day tomorrow, stretched across that same problematic region that we'll see kind of the repeat rain through the day today. And on top of that, Joe, we've got the heat, still a heat dome in place, 90s and feeling like triple digits across the southern tier of the country and even stretching up into parts of the Midwest. St. Louis, 107 for what it'll feel like today.
My goodness. All right. I don't think the arch provides enough shadow for that,
Yeah,
right? All right.
I think you're right about that.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of morning news now, including the cosmic countdown to mainland Europe's first total solar eclipse in more than 25 years. We're going to take you across the pond in just a moment. First, though, after the break, lawmakers in France giving those pesky telemarketers the slip starting today. Why Do Not Disturb is going to hit a little different over there. Those stories and much more next. We're back now at the latest chapter in the ongoing battle with telemarketers. Starting today in France, companies can't call you without your prior consent. If they do, they could face huge fines. Just one ring could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's a universal feeling.
I get like 30 spam calls a day.
Wishing telemarketers would just hold the phone.
I have reached the bitter end with these spam calls.
Well, starting today, France is ringing in a new era. Lawmakers there passed a law that bans unsolicited telemarketing calls. Instead of opting out to avoid those unwanted contacts, consumers can only receive a call from companies if they opt in. Companies violating the new rules may be fined the equivalent of $435,000 per call. The crackdown's aimed at tackling a problem that, for for decades has plagued anyone with a phone.
Right now, why don't you give me your home number and I'll call you later?
Well, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to do that.
Oh, I guess you don't want people calling you at home.
No.
Well, now you know how I feel.
Last year, the Federal Trade Commission received more than 2.6 million do not call registry complaints, up more than 25% from the year before.
Here in the States, U.S. lawmakers are also looking to tackle the issue with numerous bills in the works, including the Foreign Robocall Elimination Act, which passed in the Senate just last week and would crack down on illegal calls coming from overseas. But for those not wanting to wait on Congress, you can sign up for the National Do Not Call Registry to help cut down on unwanted sales calls. Blocking calls is also an option by using your phone's built-in features or by downloading call blocking apps. And if you hear something like this...
This message is from the Taxpayer Support Office. You've been marked for IRS resolution options.
Those robocalls are most likely already illegal. Report them to the FTC. But for the French, with nearly 3/4 saying they receive at least one sales call a week, this new ban is a step in saying au revoir to those robocalls for good. Now, the general rule of thumb for dealing with those spam calls: ignore, report, and delete. You can also check with your phone carrier to see what kind of call blocking services they offer. For those spam texts you're probably getting, you can also report those to the FTC by simply copying and pasting the text, sending it to the number 7726. It's easy enough to remember because in letter form, that stands for spam. Tomorrow, millions of people will get a spectacular show in the sky. A total solar eclipse will sweep across parts of Europe and the Arctic. It's going to be the first total solar eclipse visible from mainland Europe since 1999, with parts of Spain getting a front row seat. Here in the U.S., more than 20 northern states will at least get a partial view. NBC News international correspondent Ralph Sanchez joins us now from Valladolid, Spain, right in the path of totality. That's so much fun to say. We haven't said that in a few years. Ralph, tell us how people are getting ready for this where you are right now.
Joe, yeah, good morning from northern Spain. No shortage of sunshine at the moment, but we are still some 24 hours out from that solar spectacular, that total solar eclipse. Excitement really building here. You're seeing a lot of Spaniards running out. They're buying their solar eclipse glasses. They're figuring out how to use them. But also tons and tons of people coming from overseas. The Spanish government estimates 450,000 extra tourists are coming here to northern Spain to catch a glimpse of the eclipse. The hotels here are saying that they are fully booked. We are seeing restaurants that are doubling their tables out in the plazas. So a lot of excitement here as we await for this eclipse, which is going to come about 8:45 p.m. local time tomorrow. So as the sun is setting, and this region of northern Spain, not a lot of tall buildings, a lot of wide open country, is considered really prime location for looking at it. Jeff.
So actually, how long do we think people will get to experience totality then?
So the short answer is about 2 minutes. The longer answer is it depends a little bit where you are in the path of totality. So this eclipse is going to be going from Greenland down past Iceland, then kind of over the Atlantic, and then it is going to swoop in here towards Spain. So where we are, it's going to be about 1 minute 45 seconds of total eclipse, where the sun is completely blocked out except for that shiny rim by the moon. The longest period of totality would be if you got yourself a boat, if you sailed off the west coast of Iceland, and if you hung around in the Atlantic. That's going to last about 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Whether or not you think all that effort is worth it for an extra 30 seconds of totality, I leave that up to you.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, hey, I'm not going to rule that out for anyone here. So we're not going to be completely left out here in America. So where might Americans have the best chance to see some part of this?
Yeah, so emphasis on some. Some parts of the United States, you might see kind of 9% totality. So that's going to look like someone has taken a very small bite out of the sun. Alaska, parts of the Northeast, down along the coast of the Mid-Atlantic to about North Carolina, you're going to see something. You'll probably experience it as maybe a slight darkening. while it is only partial, it is still not safe to look directly at the sun. So make sure if you are looking at it, you are using those eclipse glasses. Jeff?
Yes, very important. Remember all those tips we got a few years ago. All right, Raph, thank you so much. And a reminder, you can catch special coverage of the total eclipse tomorrow starting at 1:45 p.m. Eastern right here on NBC News Now. We're following some developing news out of Indonesia. Crews are working to contain a series of fast-moving wildfires. NBC News reporter Matt Bodner joins us to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Matt, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Those wildfires in Indonesia continue to spread as local authorities intensify their efforts to fight them. Like many places in the world right now, Indonesia is experiencing an unusually dry season. It's also being strengthened by a strengthened El Nino conditions have also contributed to this. 43 helicopters have been deployed to help thousands of firefighters across the country. Moving along now to China, the Chinese National Space Administration suffered a rare setback on Monday when a Long March 7A rocket exploded seconds after liftoff. This rocket is considered to be one of their mainstays, rarely experiences these types of accidents. The rocket was carrying a satellite into orbit. Chinese state media has made little mention of the incident. And we'll wrap up this hour in Australia. Today is Census Day, and for the first time, Australians will be able to identify their sexual orientation and a different gender than the one recorded at their time of birth. This is the first census under a Labor government since 2011, and they almost didn't go through with these changes, calling them, quote, divisive. The questions are optional, just like a question asking about religion. Back to you.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Coming up, priority access to President Trump's social media musings, now just a few $1,000s away. But who or what is actually paying up to see his Truth Social posts before anyone else? We'll dig into it next. We are back with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with an update on a plan to sell faster access to President Trump's social media posts. NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach joins us with that and more. Gary, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Here's what's happening in politics now. President Donald Trump's thoughts are selling for top dollar. Trump media said Monday it has signed up more than 10 customers, each paying tens of thousands of dollars a month for what has become a controversial high-speed access to President Trump's Truth Social account. Interim CEO Kevin McGurn told investors the customers are primarily high-frequency trading firms who are now getting Trump's posts within milliseconds of the president hitting send. A state lawmaker in North Carolina has been selected to replace Congressman Chuck Edwards on the ballot less than 3 months before the midterm elections. The North Carolina GOP Executive Committee picked Jennifer Balcom to face off against Jamie Agger, who won the Democratic primary back in March. Balcom announced her interest in this seat just 2 days ago. GOP Congressman Chuck Edwards dropped his re-election bid after an ethics report found he recommended he be censured over sexual harassment allegations, which he denies. Congressional Democrats are investigating the Trump administration's efforts to deport members of the United States military and their families. After the Associated Press found more than 50 active duty troops, spouses, and parents have been detained by immigration authorities in recent months, more than 60 Democrats in Congress sent a letter to the Pentagon, DHS, and the VA, alerting them to the opening of an investigation into any potential coordination of immigration operations targeting people who put their lives on the line for the United States. That's what's happening in politics now. Back to you, Joe.
All right, Gary, thank you so much. Staying with political news, repairs on the Washington Monument reflecting pool could stretch into next month. The fencing on the pool was supposed to be taken down yesterday, but it's still up. President Trump says that the contractor could be responsible for some of the issues, but as Megan McGrath from NBC Washington reports, Mr. Trump is also still blaming vandals for most of the damage.
Well, the fencing around the reflecting pool was supposed to come down, but as you can see, the fence is still up. The National Park Service giving an update saying that this will stay in place until all of the work on the reflecting pool is completed. The new target date for taking it down is now September the 10th. Now, August the 28th is the March on Washington 2026 event commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous I Have a Dream speech. On that date, back in 1963, people gathered around the reflecting pool to listen, but much of that area will still be blocked off during this year's event. Disappointing for many visitors. Now, Caitlin Vasquez and Lizzie Herrera, they're visiting from out of town and we're hoping to walk around the reflecting pool at sunrise, but no luck.
I'm here for a visit, and it would be nice to be able to go down and take a picture with the sunrise behind, the monument behind. I feel like, especially as a tourist, that's part of the experience.
I mean, I think we're really disappointed about it because we woke up this morning to come here especially and be able to see the water reflect and stuff. So I think we're a bit sad about it.
And for the first time, President Trump acknowledged publicly that contractor error played a role in some of the damage to the reflecting pool. In a social media post Sunday night, the president said in part, as with many jobs, there was also some contractor error done by rushing the job for a July 4th opening. But it was a very small area of this massive pool and was relatively inconsequential. In that post, President Trump also continued to blame vandals for at least some of the damage, saying an NPS employee witnessed Olympic canoeist David Hearn ripping and tugging on the painted liner. However, U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro, she dismissed the charges against Hearn recently after her office concluded the damage to the reflecting pool was the result of shoddy workmanship and not vandals. In that social media post on Sunday, the president also talked about security cameras. He said that some, like the one you see over my shoulder, are already in place and more are on the way.
Our thanks to Megan McGrath for that report. Now, in response to these latest developments, David Hearn's defense team said in a statement that, quote, the government is continuing to attack an innocent man. We are reviewing all legal remedies, including for this continued harassment. Coming up, could a big tech legal reckoning be on its way? After the break, we'll dig into a brand new high court decision that's giving a green light to thousands of lawsuits targeting social media giants like Meta and TikTok. Are their products designed to be addictive? We're going to weigh the cases next. We're back now with details about a looming large-scale legal battle for some of the biggest tech companies. Yesterday, the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected a bid by Meta and other companies to dismiss thousands of social media addiction lawsuits. This means companies like Meta, Google, TikTok's ByteDance must now face more than 3,000 cases filed in federal court over claims that they designed their products to be addictive to young users. For more on what this could mean, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. First of all, I mean, we do have an idea of what the plaintiffs are alleging here. We've already seen one court case about this, but talk about some of the arguments being made in these thousands of cases against these companies.
Yes, here's what this case is really not about. It's not about specifically what's posted. It's about how these apps and platforms are built, the designs of, say, infinite scrolling, likes, the kinds of things that the plaintiffs say get young people addicted to these apps. It's the way that they're built, not so much the actual content that's posted.
A representative from Meta didn't immediately respond to our request for comment, but we know they've denied any wrongdoing in the past. We've seen them defend themselves in court. What are the arguments that these companies are making? We did see them lose in court once already. Might they shift that argument now? What's the strongest case they can make?
Right. Huge points here. 3, Section 230, we've heard about this. This is a law that provides a substantial defense to these companies. Point 2 is going to be the First Amendment, that the First Amendment protects this kind of speech, including the way that the platform is designed. And third, and I think this is their strongest argument, causation. Teen mental health has infinite causes. In fact, haven't we all spent millennia trying to figure out why teens behave the way they do? The Supreme Court itself only acknowledged about a decade ago that teens, the science behind it is that teens' frontal lobes in their brains and their synapses are developing well into their early 20s. Mine are probably still developing. And so for that reason, because there are so many different things that can affect teen mental health, the defendants have the argument, look, even if we did the things you're saying, how do you know that this causes the addiction that we're talking about?
Clearly, these companies would have loved it if the courts would have just tossed all these out. They wouldn't have had to deal with them. That didn't happen. So what's next in the process with so many cases here?
You're right, Joe, but I think the real headline here is not so much that Meta lost. When you think about it, this was a long shot, and it was a nuanced difference between very important legal concepts. It's the difference between immunity and a defense. And they sound similar, but the idea of legal immunity means you never have to go to a courtroom. It's a force field against having to go to court. That is decided at the outset of the case. What's interesting to me is that the court seems to be saying that Section 230 is more of a defense. And that means you say it, you allege it as a defendant, but you have to prove it through the facts, and it means you're going to have to go through a trial. And immunity means you never have to go through the trouble of a trial. A defense means you can raise it, and you might win on it, but we're going to have to wait and see.
I mentioned we've had a case already. It was March. A jury in L.A. awarded $6 million to a now 20-year-old woman. She says she became addicted to Instagram and YouTube as a child. We know, of course, both companies are planning to appeal that ruling. But here you have it. You have all of these cases working through, and then all of the appeals that will follow. This is going to be a lot of activity in the courts over many, many years, right?
Yes. There's going to be a bunch of cases moving at different speeds through to trial and then the appellate process. This is going to be a very expensive endeavor for the defendants and the plaintiffs as well, because as Meta, for example, has demonstrated, they're going to fight at every turn. They're going to make motions to dismiss, and when they lose those motions, they're going to try to immediately appeal them on every single issue.
And they have the money to do it. All right, Danny Ceballos, thank you so much. Coming up, we are linking up with an old friend here on Morning News Now. She's a best-selling children's author who's teaming up with one nonprofit right here in New York City called Literacy in Community, or LINC for short. The one and only Tish Rabi joins us after the break for a rumination on why Central Park, you can see, is the best place to be. Stay with us. We end this hour right here in New York City, where one nonprofit aims to give all children a safe space to learn how to read and write. It's called Literacy in Community, or LINC for short. For 30 years, the organization has partnered with local businesses to host community events across all 5 boroughs. This Thursday, LINC is teaming up with best-selling children's author Tish Rabi for its annual Reading on the Rails event in Central Park. Tish is going to read her newest book, Central Park, You Can See, is the Best Place to Be. How'd I do there?
We're excited. Very well.
We're excited to have literary icon herself, Tish Rabi, join me this morning. Good to have you here. Congrats on the new book, which just came out. Remind us what this is about, because this is a project you've been working on for quite some time.
Yes, this is Central Park. You can see is the best place to be, and I've been working on it for 3 years. I worked with the Central Park Conservancy historians because I had to get 843 acres into 24 rhyming pages.
There's a lot of park to cover, in case you're wondering.
Park to cover. But Sherry Levine, the executive director of LINC, was the first person to see the finished book. And she said to me, every child in New York City needs this book.
No kidding.
Because it brings it down to the 24 things to go and see.
And every tourist, too, by the way, who comes here and visits Central Park.
Every tourist.
What's amazing is if you've seen Tish on the show before, you know that she's a singer, and you do have a song for this, right? So I'm going to give you the spotlight here.
My spotlight, yes. I put a song in every book I write. So this one is, Central Park is here for you. There's lots to see and lots to do. Every hour monkeys ring a bell. You can ride the carousel. Spend the day, it's fun and pretty in the heart of New York City.
I wasn't going to sing with you because I didn't want to ruin it. You're
Everybody
a good singer.
Thank you. Thank you. That's funny.
How have people received the book so far?
Oh, it's just been so flying off the shelves, as they say.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very proud of it. And to be able to raise enough money to donate 5,000 copies, we did a crowdfunding and got the money, and it's going to go to kids in Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island.
I love how
free.
you've been able to prioritize finding a way to get it to kids who might not be able to have access to it otherwise, to make sure that they're able to see it. Let's talk about this event. It's the Reading on the Rails event. It's the 12th year that LINC has hosted it. Walk us through what it is, because I think it's such a cool New York thing.
It is.
All these kids aren't just coming to the park, but while they're on the subway, they're being read to. What exactly is happening?
They are. They're bringing the kids in on buses and ferries and subways, and while they're coming in, volunteers are reading to them. And LINC wants everyone to know that you can read to kids anywhere. You don't have to just read to them when they're going to bed or before their nap. You can read to kids all the time. And I'm going to meet the kids and read the book and sing the song. Teach them that too.
Probably more times than you can possibly
imagine.
Yes. It is such a good lesson because if you're on the subway here in New York, you do see a lot of, and I give them credit because I'm not a person who reads on the subway, but you see the person who has their book and they are completely focused on it. But reading to children too on the subway or yes, even on a ferry, that's such an extraordinary gift, isn't it?
It is. And it's really fun. And that's, I think, the wonderful message is that we just have to keep reading to our kids. Read, read, read.
Why is this message so important, especially in an event like this, especially in a place like New York City?
Well, I think it's hard for a lot of us to understand how many kids do not have one book in their home. I think that's difficult for all of us. It's why I raised the money to buy the books. It's a hard concept when you were read to as a child and you read to your kids, and try to imagine that. But Link and other organizations are working so hard to change that.
I think
one book at a time.
Exactly. I think of Dolly Parton, too, with the Imagination Library. For families, when they sign up, a kid is born, and then you get those regular books. And just the difference that can make in someone's life is absolutely extraordinary.
Huge. And people, can never underestimate how important it is to read to your kids.
Before I let you go,
yes.
You're always working on a million different projects. But anything interesting and new that is coming up for you here? Yes,
I just finished a little booklet. It's called Read to Me, and it shows parents how to read to their kids. Let's not just assume that everybody knows how to do it. You can change your voice when it's the elephant or the little bird, that kind of stuff. So I'm working on that. Should come out soon.
Where did that idea come from? Because it does seem like something so fundamental, and yet when you think about it, there can be a technique or an art to it, perhaps?
Absolutely. And, we can't just assume everybody knows that, especially if they weren't read to as children themselves. So, Read to Me is coming out in Spanish and English.
I got it. And you love reading to people, right?
I do.
I mean, and groups of kids. So when you're in Central Park, how many kids do you think you're going to be reading in front of you?
400 is 400. What I heard. Yes. And I signed all the books already. I just want you to know that.
You signed all the books. The books are good to go.
400 books.
But what's that moment going to be like, do you think, being in front of 400 kids in the park?
In the park. And thank goodness the weather may be good. Hopefully.
We're hoping. Don't jinx it.
Don't even say anything. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's wonderful for me to see the end user. I write all these children's books, 200 children's books, right? But to be in front of the kids while they read the book with me, it's magic.
There's something about a kid's face, I have to imagine.
Yes, they light up.
Tish Rabi, congratulations on everything. So excited for this event and everything that you are working on
Thank you. And if they want to get a book, it's on my website, tishrabibooks.com, or at the Central Park bookstores.
Very good.
So it's exciting.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but stay with us. The news continues in just a moment.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.